Knicks Take Podcast.
What it do? Mobbing with the crew, nothing new.
Yo, what's good? I am Josh So Focused.
I'm French, the bro host, and we would like to welcome you to
the Knicks Take Podcast.
This is episode 60.
And this is a weekly podcast where we cover the most intriguing Knicks news of the week.
Make sure to follow us on our socials. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter /X by searching for the Knicks Take.
Also, be sure to check us out on our website, knickstake.com.
If you love what you hear, you enjoy what you're watching, make sure to just please subscribe to us on the platform that you're listening to us on. Click the thumbs up button and the notification bell if you're watching on YouTube. And most importantly, just make sure to share this with any Knicks fans that are in your friends group, anyone in your family who's a Knicks fan. If they don't watch all the Knicks games and they want to just stay up to date, just make sure they come to us for that because we're going to make sure that you're all set for this next few seasons. So I hope that was well said.
That was well said, sir.
All right.
All right. On this episode of the Knicks Take Podcast, episode 60, we are going to go over the games that the Knicks played at the time of this recording. The Knicks played against the Boston Celtics for the season opener, and also last night we played the Atlanta Hawks. We're also going to cover the upcoming games. Knicks will be playing Pelicans tonight. They also will be playing the Cavs and the Milwaukee Bucks.
At the time of this recording.
Just real quick, I want to for those of us who are not watching every Knicks game and also are not so familiar with the team, we finally have the final roster for the 2023-2024 season. Our 12-man rotation, our guards will be Miles McBride, Jalen Brunson, Immanuel Quickley, Dante DiVincenzo, and Quentin Grimes. The wings, Josh Hart, R.J. Barrett, Evan Fournier, Julius Randle, unless you want to consider Julius Randle a big, which also contains Jericho Sims, Isaiah Hartenstein, and Mitchell Robinson. That is our main rotation. For the guys at the end of the bench, we have Ryan Arcidiacono, Daquan Jeffries, and Dylan Windler. And we have 3 two-way players, which means that they can go back and forth between our regular roster and the G League. Charlie Brown Jr., Jacob Toppin, Dwayne Washington Jr., for those of you who want to be more familiar with your team. Now,
Preseason's all said and done with.
correct.
Got the first game of the season.
Yep.
At MSG.
Yep.
So tell us what happened on game 1 against the Celtics.
So, game 1, opening game of the regular season, home opener of the regular season. I watched this Boston Celtic game at a bar. That is not to be disclosed because that would be promotion for another podcast. But it was a live event. Boston came in, starting lineup, Holiday, White, Brown, Tatum, Porzingis. We came in with our regular starting lineup.
Same one from the preseason.
Same one from the preseason, same one from last year. And this was a pretty good game, I want to say, but it started off rough early for the Knicks. Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle both didn't really shoot that well to start the game off. Actually, they couldn't hit anything. Both of them were like 0 for 6 or 0 for 7 to start the game. But one player who could hit something, hit anything really, R.J. Barrett, who scored 6 of the Knicks' first 8 points in the game. He had a beautiful fast break dunk that I believe Jalen Brunson passed to him. And he took it to the other side of the court, did a little tomahawk with the lefty.
That worried me because he came down, messed his knee up a little bit. It was holding his leg, was stumbling up the court. I'm like, damn, I hope he ain't just get injured on the first game.
Nah,
first play of the season.
Sometimes he tweaks his stuff a little bit. If he asks to come out, that's when you have to be worried because that means it hurts more than you thought.
Right.
But I watched him, and then after the Knicks, I think they got the ball back, or they got the defensive stop, and then he came back to the other side or something like that. Right immediately after that, it didn't look so bad. It looked like he was going to be able to play. He had a couple of pull-up mid-range jumpers, and he finished the game with a plus-minus high for the team at +6. Got to the line 7 times, made 6, which, as I'm about to discuss, was a very important thing, but also for the Knicks, The rest of the Knicks really didn't shoot that well outside of Immanuel Quickley. Free throws was a very, very big problem for the New York Knicks in this game. And it made a game that was close for a lot of the second half. It could have actually been a lot better for the Knicks if they had made their free throws. Randall, Mitch, Brunson, Grimes, Isaiah Hartenstein, and Josh Hart combined for 3 for 13 from the foul line. Mm-hmm. And that's not a good stat. That's not a good stat. 3 for 13 from the foul line, that's a gimme. Nobody's defending you. You standing in the line. You focusing. It's free. It's a free throw for a reason. At the end of the game, the Knicks missed 3 of their 4 free throws in the final 4 minutes and 10 seconds. And this is a game that the Knicks ended up losing by 4 points. But before I get to that, I spoke on Immanuel Quickley just a second ago. He had an amazing game. It wasn't as good as the last time when he was skipping up and down the Garden in Boston. Yeah. But it was a pretty good game for Immanuel Quickley. He shot 5 of 7 from the 3-point line, 5 of 6 from the free throw line. So the only 2 players to really score from the free throw line, R.J. Barrett and Immanuel Quickley.
Quentin Grimes.
I don't remember what Quentin Grimes shot from the free throw line, but he also had a very bad miss.
Free throw line, my bad.
Free throw, yes. Not 3-point, free throw line. Immanuel Quickley had a step back 3 in the 4th quarter that led me to believe we would win this game. And after that, he never shot the ball again.
Yeah,
so
they stopped looking for him.
I mean, we'll talk about more in regards to how this team has been playing over the first 2 games, but sometimes that's just kind of how the momentum of the ball goes on the team. But I do think that they should have tried to do a little bit better to find Immanuel Quickley, as he and RJ were the only 2 players who really were shooting the ball well to end the game.
Yeah. On the other side, we was watching Tatum set up his teammates and Kristaps Porzingis, his return to the Garden. He was getting open look after open look because of all the gravity that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown was getting. And I felt like if we had that same kind of energy from like Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle, we would have definitely won this game because
without question.
They didn't have it. They weren't scoring the greatest, but they still get all the gravity from the other team's defense. Like anytime they drive into the hole, they're gonna have the attention of at least 3 players, and then somebody's going to be wide open. I remember there was a few plays where Quentin Grimes was wide open, didn't see the ball. Quickly, like you said, had an amazing start to the game. He was one of our best shooters on the team for the first 3 quarters, and then he barely touched the ball throughout the 4th quarter. So,
yeah, I do. We're making it seem like the Knicks didn't move the ball in this game, but they really did. This would probably be among the top half of games and assists last season for the New York Knicks. They really did pass the ball. It's just a lot of times they were missing shots that a lot of their guys normally would make. They should have had more assists in this game, but they didn't. But also, you can have a lot of assists and you can also miss guys who should be taking shots because you're trying to take your shot. And that happened a few times with Julius Randle in particular. I want to go over kind of the momentum swing, I think, at the end of this game, which was when Immanuel Quickley appeared to, when you contest a layup and you're in the restricted area, they say that there's a rule of verticality, and you are supposed to go straight up so that you don't get a foul called on you. It'll be either a no call or a charge call on the offensive player. So Immanuel Quickley rotates to the restricted area. He appears to go straight up. He might be moving a little bit in the air, but as anyone knows, sometimes it's a little hard to just really go straight up. But what the rule of verticality, you can move a little bit to the side, which is what Immanuel Quickley did. He moved a little bit to the side so he could get to the spot in the air that the offensive player was trying to get to.
Not even to the side. It looked like he was moving away from the defender.
It also looked that way as well.
And it's like they still called a foul at the pivotal point of the game. It just didn't make sense.
That was not. They called a foul on a Derek White attempt to drive to the basket, and they called a foul on Immanuel Quickley. And that call was challenged, and they did not overturn the call. And I really would love to kind of understand. I completely don't understand why they did not overturn that call and why they called a foul on Quickley to begin with. This is almost a textbook defensive play that Immanuel Quickley did in terms of the rule of verticality and how you're supposed to defend such drives. And after that call was not overturned, yes, the Knicks did score immediately after, but they only scored 2 field goals at the end of the game after that. And I would have to say that was the momentum swing, and that kind of swung the flow of the game in the direction of the Boston Celtics. Once again, the Knicks only scored 2 field goals after that play. Porzingis hit some shots, and the Celtics beat the Knicks 108-104.
Yeah, and also the Jalen Brunson flop that they called that should have been called a flagrant foul that they acknowledged after the game. That was another point where I felt like the momentum swung to the Boston Celtics, because if you shooting a three-pointer and the guy from the other team, I think it was Tatum, lands on your feet, normally that's a flagrant foul and you get 2 shots in the ball back, if I'm not mistaken.
No, you are 100% correct. But if they don't call it and then call a flop after that player who fouled you goes to the other side and scores,
Right.
These referees just weren't playing fair. It's just all I'm going to say.
They were still in preseason mode.
Clearly. Once again, I absolutely loved the play of R.J. Barrett and Immanuel Quickley, who both finished with 24 points. If this is a consistent development, the Knicks are going to win 50. Clearly, like, I have no qualms about saying that. I don't think that we have anything to worry about with Jalen Brunson. I don't think that we have much to worry about with Julius Randle. And as you stated earlier, if both of these guys play, even with the poor free throw shooting, Knicks shot about 50% in this game, they still had a chance to win against a team that is considered to be a top 2 team in the league, let alone in the Eastern Conference. Knicks outshot Boston from 3, 43.9% to 30.8%, and outpassed them 24 assists to 18 assists. They won the offensive rebound battle, 17-7. Usually these things are recipes for a New York Knicks victory. Mm-hmm. So it just goes to show you this is a game that slipped away from the Knicks. They should have won that game and should have started the season 1-0, as me and you both predicted, French. 53.8% from the free throw line and 11 for 43 shooting from the Knicks' big 2. That's why we lost this game.
Yep.
And, some questionable calls, but I
it's
don't like to rely on that.
That's not going to be something that we're going to get accustomed to, because Jalen Brunson's normally a really efficient player. He missed a bunch of shots that he normally makes, and Julius Randle had a bunch of shots near the rim that he missed. So I think it just came from just rust, surgery over the offseason, and not playing many games in the preseason. So as the season goes along and guys get into their rhythm, you're not going to see shooting nights like that from our 2 top scorers. And, yeah, Boston's an elite team.
Yep.
They proved it. They looked really good. They're supposed to be one of the top 2 teams in the East, and we were neck and neck with them the entire night. So I think the more as the season goes along, Boston's going to be more in rhythm. The Knicks are going to be more in rhythm. They're going to just battle it out all year, and it's going to be a fun season.
I think that this proved more than anything else that the Knicks have a gear that they can get to that should make them considered a top team, at least in the Eastern Conference. Maybe not in the league. Maybe you don't consider them a top 5 team in the league, because this league is so stacked with top teams. But the fact that they were able to play this well against the Boston team, who admittedly didn't shoot the three-point shot very well, but the Knicks had so much better to get from how they played in that Boston game, and the Celtics just needed to shoot better, and maybe Jaylen Brown takes a couple extra shots, but I don't see that the Boston Celtics really playing too much better than how they did against the Knicks. Yeah. So let's move on from that, and let's get to the second game of the regular season.
So coming off a tough loss at the Garden, the Knicks set the tone early against the Hawks in Atlanta. RJ Barrett and Randle seemed to like really take a step back and set up teammates a lot more this game. RJ, normally we see him in tunnel vision. He goes to the paint and just goes straight up against whoever's down there. This game, he was looking for his teammates a lot more and still being aggressive. So I feel like that's stuff that we haven't seen from RJ Barrett. I feel like
I want to challenge that just a little bit.
You want to challenge that?
I want to challenge that because you're correct that we did see that in the past. But when's the last time we saw that from RJ Barrett? Wasn't that in the regular season of last season? Because we didn't see that in this game against Boston. We didn't really see that when he played in the FIBA tournament. And we didn't see that in the playoffs. So while I agree with you that is something that we've seen from RJ Barrett, it's been a while since we've seen that.
Yeah. He was looking a lot more like a point forward in this game than he's ever looked before. And every time that there was a right play to be made, he made it. It seemed like he's ready to take, or he's taking that step towards being the player that he's going to be in the NBA. The game seemed to slow down for him a lot. This has been my favorite RJ Barrett game that I've seen so far in his career. This is the best start to the NBA season that he's ever gotten off to. And Julius Randle didn't get off to a great start offensively, but he still played the game like how he should be approaching the game. Like he approached the game rebounding, he was playing defense, setting up his teammates just like RJ Barrett was. So everything that you ask of Julius Randle in the past, it seemed like he's taken that to heart and he's really been playing a lot more consistently. He's flowing with the team a lot more. He's not forcing the offense if he doesn't have his shot going, and I really am encouraged to see that by him. He's letting the game come to him. And Brunson, you don't even really think about Brunson, and you look at the stat sheet. You look down and see he had 30 points. He set a career high from 3, hit 8 3-pointers, and that was all in 3 quarters. He ain't hit a 3-pointer in the whole 4th quarter, and the Hawks, even though they were keeping the score pretty close throughout the game, it never really felt like they had a chance to win.
No.
And it kind of was like the Boston game, but reversed. Boston had the lead throughout the entire game. We came and got the lead in the 4th quarter, and they came back, took over, and then they won the game. And this is exactly what happened against Atlanta. Dante DiVincenzo came off the bench, led the bench unit in scoring. He had 16 points. This was his best game as a Knick so far. He nailed 3 3-pointers. He's playing tough defense on Trae Young. Quickley was playing tough defense on Trae Young, even though he didn't shoot the ball well. It was just a good all-around game from all of our young players. Julius Randle finished the game with nearly a triple-double. He went into the 4th quarter with only 9 points. He finished the game with 17, 12 rebounds, and 9 assists. RJ finished with 26 points, 6 assists. But I don't feel like stats really tell how great of a game each of those guys had. And RJ just knocked down all the crucial baskets that we needed in those moments. I felt like Randle hit down all the tough threes in the 4th quarter that we needed in those moments. Jalen Brunson knocked down every 3 that you wasn't even expecting to go in. He was swishing, nothing but net.
I was expecting him to. As soon as they came off his head, I was like, "That's going in. That's going in."
But it was the same shots he was taking against Boston.
Correct,
and those weren't falling.
The clear difference for me is that the start of that game and the start of this game for Jalen Brunson completely different.
Yeah.
When this game started, Jalen Brunson was not looking, off the way he looked. Like, he started off that Boston Celtics game missing bunnies, missing floaters, missing all of the shots that he normally hit. He was getting to his spots and missing.
Yeah.
He did not do that in this game. He looked like he came out trying to prove that was just him shaking the rust off in that first game. And, he looks like he's back to normal, which I was not worried about.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I remember last episode we were talking about the Hawks and how Trae Young is probably going to have one of those games against us. And I was saying how Quentin Grimes, ever since he's been inserted into the starting lineup, how Trae Young hasn't really gotten off against us.
Right.
So it would come down to DeJounte Murray, and it seemed like that's exactly what was happening.
Right.
Every time the Hawks were coming back, DeJounte Murray was driving the paint, getting an and one, hitting a mid-range jump shot, and Trae Young entered the fourth quarter like 1 for 15 or something like that. Most of his points came from the free throw line.
Yep.
And he was just in hell. He couldn't really get it going. And the Knicks had a good lead up until that last little minute of the game where it seemed like they wanted Atlanta to win. They kept turning the ball over. There was a pass that went to Grimes. He lost the pass. Trae Young gets the ball, and then he fouls him for some reason.
Yep.
Sending them to the free throw line.
Yep.
And then Jalen Brunson does a bounce pass to R.J. Barrett that goes out of bounds. The Hawks end up with the ball down 1 point, and what was it, like 15 seconds left in the game? Trae Young does a drive to the paint, and for the first time of the night, I'm like, wait, are we about to lose this game? Because I'm getting flashbacks to the playoffs where Trae Young goes and hits that floater in the Garden, does the little shimmy ice tray, and he does it on Frank Ntilikina.
Mm-hmm.
Did I even tell you that game, when I went to that game in the playoffs, I had a Frank Ntilikina jersey on, and that was the one play that he got in. I left that game, and some dude was like, you got to burn that jersey.
You did tell me this story.
So I'm having all these flashbacks watching Trae Young drive to the paint.
Yeah.
Goes up with the same floater that he did in that playoff series in game 1 at the Garden.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of it being a floater and it being Nerlens Noel blocking him, we got Mitchell Robinson.
Yep.
Getting the stop because Clint Capella didn't expect it to be a lob. He goes up, tries to do a putback, ends up losing the ball. Yep. Randall gets the ball, and they foul him.
I just want to say, for any fan who wants to go back and look at some of the Knicks wins, you can skip this one. Like, it was a good game, but that final sequence by the Knicks, oh Lord, that is unnecessary stress. You don't need to put yourself through that. Anybody with high blood pressure, hypertension, anything like that, just pretend this game doesn't exist. Just say Knicks won this game and just move on. Mitchell Robinson, I've continuously said that I think the Knicks would have played Atlanta Hawks better in that playoff series if Mitchell Robinson was healthy and available to play. And in this game, he definitely showed a healthy Mitchell Robinson. He's not going to completely stop Clint Capella from, enforcing his will into the game, but he definitely prevented Clint Capella from getting at least 2 easy lob dunks. That dunk, that lob that Trae Young sent to Clint Capella at the end of the game, he had to throw it up so high, and Clint Capella had to time his jump just to get his hand on the ball. And all of this is just disruption that Mitch brings. Nerlens Noel, while a good shot blocker and good defensive player back then for the Knicks, he could not do what Mitchell Robinson does. He's not as big of a body. He's not as athletic, and he's not as lengthy, as Mitchell Robinson. And this is why we need Mitch to be healthy. We need him to be that starting center that we know he's capable of being. And he just makes all of the difference. He's definitely one of our most important players in this game against the Hawks. Isaiah Hartenstein.
Wait. Before you move on to Hart.
Yeah.
I felt like Mitch was also one of those the key players from this game because I gave a lot of credit to Quentin Grimes, Quickley, and all these guys for Trae Young, but Mitchell Robinson also massively was disrupting their pick and roll flow. Mm-hmm. 4 blocks, 4 steals, and Trae Young never got comfortable the whole night because he knew Mitch was down there.
Yep.
And that was a factor that we didn't have in that playoff series back in 2020, I believe. So, yeah, massive flowers go out to Mitchell Robinson. I feel like he's one of our most important players.
Massive flowers.
6 offensive rebounds.
He played so well that Isaiah Hartenstein, who ended up in a little bit of foul trouble to start the game. I don't want to say that like he didn't deserve to play more. He had some of the better plays in this game from happened because of Hartenstein. He had a fast break dunk after the steal that he caught. He dribbled up the court and then scored. I believe he dunked the ball put the Knicks up 10 in the first half. Atlanta needed a timeout, and even at the end of the game, he caught that rebound off of the free throw.
His own free throw.
The ball went over all of the Atlanta Hawks players, and he just took a quick step after it hit the rim and caught the ball and dunked the ball. Isaiah Hartenstein was definitely key in this game, but not as key as Mitchell Robinson. Yeah. But I wanted to give Isaiah Hartenstein his flowers too for being a backup big who always comes through. Now that he's healthy and he's in shape and all of that stuff, he had a little tough stretch last season to start, but he's just as key for this Knicks team being good as Mitchell Robinson is, just so that when Mitch gets that breather, we have somebody who can do those types of things.
He's in a contract year too.
Yes.
Just that quick.
Yes.
And he's the best backup center in the NBA, in my opinion.
Listen, I got to go through the backup centers, but yeah, I probably won't disagree with you.
Not that many good ones. I'll tell you that.
If you don't have anything else for the Hawks, I have a little bit more.
Talk to me.
Okay. Knicks, 30 assists on 43 made field goals, 70% assist percentage. That's elite.
Yep.
That would make the Knicks one of the best passing teams in the entire NBA. And this is the second straight game where it's clear that the Knicks are making a more considered effort to find the open man, to move the ball. Yes, sometimes they still do stagnate, but so does every team in this league. This team seems to trust each other way more this season than they have in any season under Tom Thibodeau. Probably has to do with the fact that we're bringing back all of the same players outside of Dante DiVincenzo. Everybody knows where everybody's spots are, knows what they like. But I wanted to bring that up because that was very key. 30 assists. And I hope that this is not the last 30 assist game for the season.
I don't think so. I think the way that they've been playing these first two games, that's just that's a outline of how they're going to be playing moving forward. And Thibodeau teams improve throughout the season.
Mm-hmm.
So to see that we're looking this good and this cohesive early on, I think it's going to be a really fun season to look forward to. Julius Randle he's looking a lot more calm and collected, flowing within the team offense, and I just can't wait to see what kind of season he's about to have. It looks like he's ready to play the Draymond role.
I mean, I don't think that would be a bad role for him. I do think that the Knicks will. I think that the way that this season has gone so far, with R.J. Barrett playing as well as he has, Jalen Brunson regaining that composure that he had from last season, you don't need Julius Randle to necessarily be that all-star player that he was last season. And I think you specifically said that you don't expect him to be that kind of player. You think he's going to be more of a facilitator. So far through two games, you are proving yourself to be right. I thought Julius Randle would still be that scoring guy. And I thought they would still need him to be that scoring guy that he was last season. But these two games have shown me they don't necessarily need that from him. They don't necessarily need him to be that scorer. He can be that facilitator. He can be that facilitator and still be a dangerous offensive player for the New York Knicks. I still need to see more from him on the defensive end. Like, he definitely is out there sleeping a lot. But Julius Randle can play that role, and it's a nightmare for the other team.
Yeah, and R.J. Barrett looked like he's ready to take that next step, too.
He does.
I think bold prediction before we move on to the upcoming games. Actually, should I even say it this early? It's only 2 games
You
into the
already
season.
hinted at it. You already said it.
It's 2 games into the season.
Yeah.
I want to really
jump out the window so bad.
Yeah. After 10 games, I'm going to really stand on it. But if R.J. Barrett continues to play like this, I feel like we're going to see the first all-star season for R.J. Barrett. And I think Julius Randle probably isn't going to get that nod this year. But I do see Jalen Brunson and R.J. Barrett representing the Knicks on All-Star Weekend if he could continue to play like this.
Let's give him 10 games.
10 games. I'm going to stand on
Let's give him 10 games. Through the first 2 games, he's already a 20-point-per-game scorer. The second game, it was super efficient. super efficient from three. He shot 3 for 5 from the 3-point line.
Defense is looking a lot better than last year.
Defense is looking like a lot better. His effective field goal percentage was very good in this game. And yeah, if he keeps this up, if this is the regular RJ Barrett game, even if he has one clunker in these first 10 games, I wouldn't mind dipping my toe into that prediction that you're making.
Hashtag let's talk about RJ.
All right, before we get into the previews, I just wanted to note something real quick.
Talk to me.
I looked at it's only 2 games. It's only 2 games, guys. 2 games.
It's only 2 games.
I was looking at, okay, how are things trending so far after this first week of the NBA season? And the Knicks are top 10 in rebound percentage. They are top 10 in offensive rebound percentage. They're actually tied for 6th with the Phoenix Suns. They are top 10 in assist to turnover. They are tied for 5th with the Hawks and the Washington Wizards. They are top 10 in defensive rebound percentage, tied for 5th. Excuse me, they're not tied. They're solely 5th, ahead of the Brooklyn Nets. And assist percentage, they are top 10, number 6. They are top 10 in offensive rating, currently 9th. If they can hold on to their position, their top 10 position in those categories for the rest of the season, we are talking about a top 4 team in the league.
Yep.
And just wanted to let y'all know it's something that we'll keep an eye on. Again, it's early. After the next game, the Knicks could drop out of the top 10 in all of these categories.
It's not happening, though.
But I do think that some of these categories they will hold on to. And if they can hold on to some of those assist percentage and assist to turnover ratios, if they can stay in the top 10 or close to the top 10, yeah, we're looking at a really good season.
I think another, bold prediction, we finished top 3 last year in offensive rating.
Mm-hmm.
Is it bold to say? Because I think with the shooting element that we have this year, it's much, much improved compared to last year. So I do think we could have the best offensive rating in the NBA.
I think you are jumping out the window with that.
But the only 2 teams that I feel like can compete with our offensive rating is probably the Sacramento Kings and the Boston Celtics.
How do you feel about the Phoenix Suns?
The Phoenix Suns, I don't like. I know that like they have the best big 3 in the NBA, but how many games are they realistically going to play together? Bradley Beal and Devin Booker are already both injured, and Kevin Durant hasn't had a full season where he hasn't been injured. So it's like on paper, yeah, the Phoenix Suns are like the juggernaut to look out for, but they don't. Kevin Durant doesn't take the regular season seriously, so I don't think we're gonna have to worry about them in terms of offensive rating and all that.
How do you feel about the Denver Nuggets?
The Denver Nuggets, they're gonna be top 5.
I'm just throwing some teams out there, and then there's always going to be a team that comes out the woodwork. But we try not to make this too long of an episode, so let's keep it pushing.
All right, my fault.
All right, so let's start with the preview. So tonight, October 28th at 7 o'clock at the Smoothie King Center. I just wanted to say.
They got to change the name of that.
They got to change the name of the arena. Like, listen, some of you NBA teams, y'all not embarrassed? Yeah. Come to the Smoothie King Center so we can win. Come on now. Really. At the Smoothie King Center, LOL.
We spoiled.
The Knicks will play the New Orleans Pelicans. The Pelicans haven't played since Wednesday and are 1-0 with a victory over the Memphis Grizzlies.
The John Morant-less.
Yes. The Pelicans are without Jose Alvarez, Najee Marshall, and Trey Murphy III. But, they still got...
Jose Alvarez. You mean Alvarado?
Oh, yeah, him. Excuse me. Slip up. Alvarado. And they still have, some player there who may or may not play the whole season.
Zion?
Oh, yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
They might have Zion Williamson. I think that the Knicks need to try and steal this one. And I say steal only because it's the second night of a back-to-back. They ended the game at, 10:30 or 10 o'clock last night. Then they had to fly over to New Orleans and then get their rest. And then they have to get ready for this game. And when Zion played last year, Pelicans were tied for first place before he went down in the West. So this is not a bad team when Zion is playing. So, yeah, I do consider this like stealing one because the Pelicans can be a very good team, and this is the second night of a back-to-back.
I mean, we played New Orleans when they had Zion, and we whipped their ass. So I'm not really concerned. We have a better road team than that home team based on last season, and we're even better this year. So
yes, but the Knicks looked tired last night. Would you say that? Would you say that they looked a little gassed towards the end of that game, and then they have to fly to New Orleans and then play another game against a fresh New Orleans Pelicans team that has one of the strongest and fastest and athletic freaks in the NBA? You don't think that that's going to play a part in how this game's going to go?
Maybe in the first quarter or so. Or the fourth quarter, I mean.
I do think that if they win this one, they steal this one, but I do think this is an important one. The Knicks need to try and take advantage of any potential holes in the schedule, and a Pelicans team that's missing some rotation players, I would consider that a hole, even though it's the second half of a back-to-back. They need to try and just collect the wins where they can to start off, because this is a pretty, I would say it's a pretty difficult schedule to start the season for the Knicks, with the back-to-backs, with some of the teams that they're going up against.
Still sharp and still, though.
Yes. I'm expecting for Julius to somehow outplay Zion in this game and finally arrive this season the way he has not arrived. I'm not saying that he had a bad game against the Hawks, but that was not like Julius is back. He's going to be an all-star game. That was Julius is doing what we need him to do to win this game.
That's what I want.
I would like to see him do both.
Well, I don't feel like we need him to be all-star caliber. I need him to be just locked in, because whenever he's not playing like an all-star in recent history, that's when he checks out. So, like, even if his shot isn't falling, he's not getting a bunch of shots in the first half, I just want him to stay locked in, take the challenge to just be Zion's matchup and stop him from getting comfortable.
I mean, I don't see that happening. I don't see that happening.
He's strong.
Yes, he is. I'm not saying that he is incapable. I just don't see it happening. Julius still has defensive lapses, and he still does a lot of pointing fingers when there's a defensive breakdown, and he is part of the reason for that defensive breakdown.
I haven't seen that this year.
I mean, there was a point, there were 2 points in this past game, which we're over that game, but one time him and Mitchell Robinson looked like they were going back and forth over whom failed to make the proper read. And there was another point where Quentin Grimes was telling him, you needed to be over there, and Randall shook his head and said, no, you needed to be over there. And I have to look at that second play again, but from the other plays that I watched where Julius Randle looked like he was either in a place he wasn't supposed to be or didn't make the concerted effort, I'm willing to go on a limb and say that maybe Julius was wrong. But
it's possible.
And that's the Julius Randle that we don't need, and that's the Julius Randle who is going to allow Zion to go off in this game, and we need to find a good countermeasure for that. And it should come from him if he's not going to defend well.
Yeah. The next game, were you done with New Orleans?
I am done with New Orleans, yes.
So the next game on Halloween, spooky season.
It's getting spooky out here.
We going against the Cleveland Cavaliers, who we matched up with in the first round. Nationally televised game, TNT, and this is going to be in Cleveland.
At the Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse.
Yeah. So, At the time of this recording, the Cavs listed Darius Garland and Jarrett Allen as day-to-day while Ricky Rubio's out up until January. So this is another one of those moments in the season where we could take advantage if those three guys are out. And Cavs will be coming off a back-to-back. This will be the second half of the back-to-back. And I think we should be able to take this game. Jalen Brunson has always thrived against the Cavs. They don't have a backcourt tandem that can really match up well with him. Max Strus is a good shooter. We saw that in the playoffs, but he wasn't guarding Jalen Brunson well. Jalen Brunson was dropping 30 every game in that Miami series, and he was the best player in that Cleveland series too. So
there's not many defenders that can stop Jalen Brunson. Like, he's very hard just because of his shiftiness and his footwork and, you know, his decision making when he has the ball in his hands. For the most part, it's really hard to defend Jalen Brunson one-on-one. With that said, I think that it's not going to be based on Jalen Brunson. I do think that it's going to be dependent on some of the bench rotation players, kind of how it was in the playoffs for the Knicks and the Cavs. As long as all the top players play well, it's gonna be a battle of attrition. Who is going to tire out first? Who is going to have more bodies to feed into the game? And I'm confident in saying that it's the New York Knicks, even with the additional players for the Cleveland Cavaliers.
I was also going to say they still don't have an answer for Mitch.
No.
So that's another factor of this game that's going to heavily influence these two games that we play against Cleveland. It's going to be another game against Cleveland after this one. So
damn.
I see Mitchell Robinson taking full advantage of this matchup, and he's gonna show out along with Jalen Brunson. I'm pretty sure Julius Randle wants to get some payback because he ain't really get to go off against Cleveland in that first round.
He did a little bit
to that ankle injury. They injured him again.
I mean, he was going off when they injured him, so you know he did kind of show a little bit. But I'm sorry. What was your take? You think that the Cavs are gonna?
I mean, last week I was saying that we could end the whole October undefeated.
And you're already wrong.
And I'm already wrong because of the referees in that Boston game. But I see the Knicks killing Cleveland.
Killing them. Okay.
At home.
That's some bold words.
Yeah.
I don't know if I see them killing Cleveland at home. This is tough. My guess is that they're going to split both of these games, which is why I placed a little bit of importance on the Knicks beating the Pelicans and me believing that they're going to beat the Pelicans and get both of these back-to-backs, which is really hard to do. I just don't know how this is going to play out. Are they going to beat the Cleveland Cavaliers at their home? And since you already brought it up, we'll just swing this into the Knicks facing the Cavs at the Madison Square Garden on November 1st. The next day, another back-to-back, 2 straight back-to-backs, which seems kind of unfair. But not really unfair because the Cavs are also coming off of the back-to-back because they played Friday and Saturday also. Do I think that they are going to lose in Cleveland and win in the Garden? I'm going to say that they're going to win in Cleveland and they're going to lose in the Garden. I think that they'll probably keep Garland out one more day and they'll bring him back for the matchup in the Garden so that they can get that win that they need. And that is going to be my take. I think that the Knicks haven't gotten all the way back to normal yet. And unless they show in the next 2 games that they can get back to normal, They've been a little sloppy in both the Boston game and in the Atlanta game. I need a game where they are not looking sloppy. You know, like a little sloppiness is acceptable.
Yeah.
There have been stretches where it's like, what the hell? It was the beginning of the Boston Celtics game. It was like, they are not ready. And it was the end of the Atlanta game where it's like, y'all are sloppy, and maybe it's because y'all tired and y'all are not back into regular season form. It's hard for me to say that they're going to go 3 straight.
It's early in the season. I feel like all teams have had those little sloppy runs.
100%.
Just because rust and getting their feet under them and getting ready for the season. But I see both of these games being in our favor. I do see the game at the Garden being a lot closer than the game in Cleveland because you know how it goes. All the role players come to MSG, turn into prime Michael Jordan and Steph Curry, and it's going to be somebody that we least expect to go off from Cleveland. And I still see us leaving that game with a victory just because this team is just tough. Tough, defensive-minded team. Even if it's a close game and they're down with 3 minutes to go, they're going to fight. They never give up. They never have any quit. And I feel like that's going to result in our favor in this matchup because I don't see the same resilience on the Cleveland roster. They're going to rely on Donovan Mitchell a lot.
Something that I wanted to say a little earlier. You said that they don't have an answer for Mitch. They could have an answer for Mitch if they learned from that playoffs and realized that they needed to get tougher. They did some soul searching. They got 2 talented bigs on that team. And if one or both of them decide, nah, that's not going to happen to me again, you have to consider that as an option. Like, you have to consider that maybe one of Jarrett Allen or Mobley is going to show up and they're going to say, you're not going to bully me this time because, you know, steel sharpens steel. So you have to take that, you know, I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but you kind of have to, you can't count that out. You can't dismiss that. I also think that Julius Randle is going to have to be the guy that he was. If he doesn't do it against the Pelicans, he's going to have to do it in one of these games against the Cavs. I think when he was bullying dudes in the playoffs, in that first round against the Cavs, the Knicks were clearly the better team. And he was pushing them out of the free throw lane and just bullying them and saying, y'all not strong, y'all don't got no muscle. Like when he was doing that, and then when he did what he did in Game 5 before he got injured. If we get that Julius, yeah, we're gonna take one or both. But we haven't seen that Julius so far this season. So let's move on. We got one more game.
I just want to say, Evan Mobley don't look like he gained a lot of weight, so so much they can do to stop Mitch. But go ahead, let's go to the next game.
No, that's you, sir. That's all you.
Let's get to that Bucks-Knicks matchup. We're gonna be in Milwaukee for that one, November 3rd. First matchup against Damian Lillard and the new look Bucks. Giannis signed a 3-year extension, so it doesn't look like he's gonna be on the market for us to trade for anytime soon. So they're healthy. The Bucks are undefeated at the time of this recording. This may be our first loss of the season.
You mean?
I mean, second loss of the season. My fault.
Yeah, you thought you were still, we're going to be undefeated. Nah, this is the first loss that you see in this upcoming week, you mean?
Right. We should be undefeated, though.
We should be.
Realistically speaking.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be hard to match up with Damian Lillard and Giannis together. That's going to be a duo that the whole NBA is going to have to figure out. Yeah, it's going to be a tough game. I don't really have much to say about it. I'm a little nervous about that matchup.
Would it change your opinion if it was in Madison Square Garden?
No.
Or do you you think either
worse.
way, you think it'll be worse?
Yeah.
You think we definitely losing if it was in the Garden?
Yeah, for sure. At least to start the season. Once we see some weaknesses out of that lineup, because I know they're not going to have the best perimeter defense, but it ain't like we got most outstanding defense to stop Damian Lillard from dropping 40. So
No.
Quentin Grimes is going to have his hands full that night.
I mean, yes, you're 100% correct.
Yeah.
I do think that the fact that we have RJ Barrett playing very well,
Yeah.
that could be a point in our favor, because who's going to stop RJ really? Are they going to put Giannis on him? Because if they put Giannis on him, then you got to think about, okay, then who's going to be on Julius?
They're probably going to put Middleton on RJ.
Is Middleton all the way back healthy? And that's the problem with, early season predictions.
Yeah.
The Bucks have only played one regular season game so far at the time of this recording.
Yeah.
Maybe after they play the Hawks tomorrow, then they're going to play the Heat, then they're going to play the Raptors. We'll have a better way to decipher how the Knicks are going to win. But with one game, you don't really have much to really go on. So one
more thing I wanted to say.
Go ahead.
Mitch kind of struggles with stretch fives, and Brook Lopez is going to have him out of that paint for sure. Not struggles, but he doesn't have the same defensive impact when he has to guard someone that's in the perimeter. And Brook Lopez has had his number a few times, I felt like.
My thing with Mitch is that I think that he doesn't do enough tape study on who he's playing against, unless it's somebody that is clearly like a star.
Yeah.
Right? I think that was the problem with Kristaps. He was like, I don't think Kristaps can just drive to the rim like that. And he was wrong.
Yep.
And he's like, maybe he'll hit this, maybe he won't. He was wrong. I think if Mitch has a clear understanding of who he plays against, he can be that perimeter guy. Because remember, he used to be a very good perimeter defender as a big back when he first started. It's just that his role now is to defend the rim, and he's prioritizing that. And he is more focused on what he's supposed to do on the court as opposed to who he is guarding. And he needs to do both.
And he also may be guarding Giannis instead of Brook.
I don't think he'll guard Giannis. I do think he'll stay on Brook. And I don't think that it's going to be as big of a problem because he does look a little faster this year. I think that Kristaps, he just looked unprepared for Kristaps.
Right.
I don't think he'll be unprepared for Brook. But I was wrong before. I thought Mitch was going to have a double-double against the Celtics, and he ain't come close. So, with that said, you're predicting a loss.
Yep.
The first loss of the games that we are going to be discussing in this episode. I'm going to say that the Knicks are going to go into the Fiserv Forum and they're going to come out. They're going to leave with a win.
Is that the COVID vaccine?
Yeah, I probably shouldn't talk so much because if we end up losing all these games, it's going to look really, really bad, me calling out all of these arenas. But I think that's going to be something I do all season, so deal with it. I think we're going to leave the Fiserv Forum with a victory. And that just goes to I think that this point in the season, I think this is when the Knicks are going to start getting their bearings and showing teams who they are the way that they did later in the season last year.
It's going to be another nationally televised game too, ESPN.
The Knicks usually do well on nationally televised games.
For sure.
So that even more so goes to how I feel. Next topic of the week. So we didn't really go over it last week, so we'll quickly cover it. No pun intended. The Immanuel Quickley Extension, the outcome. So this past, was it Monday?
I believe so.
This past Monday at 6 o'clock, that was the deadline for Immanuel Quickley to be extended. His rookie contract, have his rookie contract extended. I'll start that over. This past Monday was the deadline for Immanuel Quickley to have his rookie contract extended with the New York Knicks. Mm-hmm. And we reached 6 o'clock, and we got no extension.
None.
So what is the failure to extend Quickley? What does that mean to you, French? How does that make you feel?
That he's betting on himself.
Mm-hmm.
The sides just apparently weren't close on a contract. It seemed like the Knicks were probably looking to offer him $80 million for 4 years. and maybe he's looking for more of a Jalen Brunson kind of contract, over $100 million. And I don't know many teams that are willing to give both point guards on their roster in their rotation a $100 million contract. But I don't know. Quickley is quite possibly the best backup point guard in the NBA. That could be me being biased, but I don't see many other backup point guards in the NBA who brings the defensive impact as well as the scoring potential that he has on a nightly basis. This team is not the same without Immanuel Quickley. I feel like he definitely fits well within our identity. He has a great impact on our outcomes of every game that we play.
Long story less long. This team was a better team anytime Immanuel Quickley was on the court.
Even if he's not shooting well.
Any lineup, any rotation, anytime Quickley was on the court, that rotation, that lineup, statistically played better when Quickley was on the court. He was a runner-up for the Sixth Man of the Year, and many of us Knicks fans believe that he was wrongly left out and should have been the Sixth Man of the Year last season. And when you put all of these things together, and if you believe that he is a starter in this league, you can't blame Quickley for one in $100 million contract. Should the Knicks be worried about the failure to extend, or should we as fans be worried?
Well, who was the last restricted free agent to really get offered like a max contract? That's what it would take for him to.
Right, but just because
poached, I feel like
just because it's not common doesn't mean it's not something you should worry about.
Well, forget common. What teams in the NBA desperately need a starting point guard right now?
And we don't have enough time to
I
to kind of look through.
It's not
okay,
many. It's
all right.
not many.
So who?
It's possibly Toronto, because they have Dennis Schroeder, or maybe Orlando, but they got like 4 or 5 point guards, but none of them are really legit point guards. Like Markelle Fultz is nice, Cole Anthony's pretty good, but do these teams even have the cap space? Like when you look at the teams that have cap space this next summer, even though it doesn't really say anything right now, just based off like trades could be happening at the deadline that could clear up cap space, but I don't really see no teams clearing cap space for Immanuel Quickley unless he has like an outstanding season. And even if he does have an outstanding season, I don't see the Knicks having a problem with paying him. It's also the fact that we're going to have to pay Isaiah Hartenstein this summer too. So maybe they're just trying to make sure they see what he does in the playoffs before we make a commitment like that to paying him a $100 million contract. But
so
yeah.
You brought up a very interesting team, the Toronto Raptors. And the Toronto Raptors are actually in a pretty interesting situation. They are possibly going to lose OJ Anunoby. They could possibly lose Pascal Siakam. That's over $50 million right there that they could lose. And I think that would open up enough cap space for them to, let's see, they still have Jakob Poeltl. They still have Dennis Schroeder. That would be the last year of his contract. They could open up enough cap space to max out Immanuel Quickley and give a big FU to the Knicks for suing them this season. So that's not something that I would think is out of the question for them to just be like, okay, y'all want to do this to us? Watch this. Yeah, you want Immanuel Quickley to come back? Yeah, maybe he's not. Maybe he just has the same kind of season he had last year. Which, if he has the same kind of season that he had last year, the Knicks are not going to want to max him out. And that is the problem I had with this extension process. Is that now all of a sudden you don't have control over the situation. Yes, you could possibly trade Quickley, but you have to kind of hope that he plays to max contract level at this point. You have to hope that he either plays to max contract level or that he doesn't play well. If he plays somewhere in the middle and somebody pays him more than what you're willing to pay him, and you don't get a trade out, which I don't think the Knicks are going to trade Immanuel Quickley midseason. I just don't see it because I don't see any star player trying to ask out of their team in the middle of the season. So we're talking about Immanuel Quickley making it to the end of the season, making it to a restricted free agency, probably playing the same way that he's played last year, maybe with a couple of improvements, but definitely not an all-star caliber player. If somebody's going to pay him above what the Knicks are willing to pay, now you're talking about, okay, now we have to either overpay Immanuel Quickley or we have to lose him in free agency. And neither one of those things are positives for the New York Knicks.
Well,
and that, to me, that's the most likely scenario that comes at the end of this.
It really just depends on what kind of playoffs he has. If he has a bad playoffs, he's not going to get overpaid. And he's not going to really have the room to negotiate a salary like that because he hasn't had a good playoffs since being in the NBA. He maybe had a good playoff game against Atlanta, but
he would have to.
He has to show up.
He would have to show up. He would have to play not just good, but as good as we know he can play in any game.
Yep.
And if he does not do that in the playoffs consistently, would he get overpaid? I think he could. I think he's shown in the regular season. I think there's plenty of teams who are looking for regular season point guards to start who are not really considering the playoffs, who are like, I'll pay that guy $140 million. Like, and that is probably a tad bit over what the Knicks are willing to pay. They might be willing to pay, if somebody's willing to pay him 130, 135. Yeah. 140 might be a bit too much for the Knicks, especially considering some of the cap ramifications for them to do it, to bring him back in hopes that maybe they can trade somebody for a star player. It's just, there's a lot of ways that this could go right for the Knicks, but not many that I'm seeing are like, I think the most likely scenarios are bad ones for the Knicks. So, French, really quickly, last week you said a 15-game winning streak is coming for the Knicks.
Yep.
Where in the season do you think this is going to happen?
There's 2 points in the season that I think it's possible. And if you know anything about Knicks basketball, you know within the last several seasons, we've had 9-game winning streaks twice. Last season, we've had an 8-game winning streak and a 9-game winning streak. In the We Here season, the Big 15 season, we had a nice little 9-game winning streak. And we could just pretend like the Kemba Walker season just never happened. But even that season, I'm pretty sure we went on a nice little winning streak. So
this is not really quickly.
Real quick, I see December 29th to January 23rd being the first break in the season where it's possible for us to get this 15-game winning streak. And the reason why I'm saying it so early in the season is because normally Thibodeau teams ramp up around March and get some chemistry going. But because we have the same roster from last year with only one addition to the lineup in DiVincenzo, I think we can make a good, nice little run early in the season while other teams are still trying to get their bearings. And during this stretch, we're not facing many teams that are like top 5 talent-wise. Like
a few.
On the 29th, we'd be facing off against
the Magic,
following Indiana, Minnesota, Chicago, Philadelphia. Who knows what they're going to even look like around this time of the season. Harden's probably going to be gone. Embiid's probably, who knows? You
got Washington,
Portland, Dallas, Memphis, Orlando again, Houston, Washington, Toronto, and then Brooklyn. And then the game after this is Denver, which is where I see they have a chance to lose. Even though we swept them last year, defending champs, you got to give them that respect.
I do think that's a decent stretch. I can see them winning the majority of those games, and all they need is one of those games to not go right. I mean, to go right for them. The ones that I'm like, that's a little, that could go either way. If it goes in their way, yeah, you could be looking at a 15-game winning streak.
Which teams?
I do think that Philly, it really depends on if Embiid is going to be playing and if he's healthy this season. That's really the main one. I saw Philly in this schedule. I was like, ugh. Because something that has kept popping up after I've kind of dismissed Philly as a top 4 team this season is that as long as Joel Embiid is healthy, the Philadelphia 76ers have been a 50-win team. So
that's not a good measure to look at it, though, because they've always had Ben Simmons or James Harden.
Even when, they'll have somebody.
Maxey?
They'll have somebody. And even when Ben Simmons was playing, like, it's been a while since Ben Simmons has been like a bona fide all-star.
Yeah.
So,
but what team was he on when he was a bona fide all-star?
He was in Philly.
That's what I'm saying.
But after that, he was on Philly too. But anyway, what's the other part of the schedule?
I see like the beginning of February, maybe end of January. Let's see.
What
so
game
it's right after like where I just said where we face Denver.
Mm-hmm.
Possibly Miami. I see that as a possible gimme. But even it's tough to call against Miami, even though they lost their starting backcourt.
We played them very well in the regular season last year, so it's not egregious to say that we could beat them and count that as a W.
And this one is a little more. It's better competition during this stretch.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, it's the 29th, January 29th. And let's see. Just stop me where you think we would lose. Mm-hmm. Charlotte, Utah, and I think Utah's gonna be tough. Indiana, that's gonna be a nice little matchup. CO be topping. LA, Lakers, Memphis, Dallas, Indiana again, in Houston, in Orlando, Philly, Boston. That's gonna be a tough one. Detroit, New Orleans, Golden State. That's gonna be another tough one. Cleveland's
going to be a tough one. Philly is another tough one. Either way, this is a tougher stretch. I like the first stretch better than that stretch. But I do think that you've got we'll come back to this later and we'll see how see if you've come close to the 15-game winning streak.
Yeah. Because at the end of the season, we played a lot of West teams. Sacramento, Golden State.
Yeah.
So it's tougher.
All right. That was fun.
Yep.
All right, y'all. At this point, we'll bid you adieu, as my brother French says.
And we'd also like to thank you for listening to
the Knicks Take Podcast. As you guys can see, for those of you watching on YouTube, merch is we're starting to get it together. You see French's hat, you see my sweater. Tell us how you feel about it. Tell us if you like it. Tell us if you want it, and we'll immediately
fire up that store.
We'll try to fire up that star. Fire up the store. Get that merchandise out there to you.
And we're also going to be bringing merch to the games. So if you see us at the games, just check it out. We're going to have some bags on us most likely. So we're going to have some stuff for you.
All right. Thank you guys for listening. I want to thank Jordan. I want to thank Caesar. They're the production team behind this. We haven't done it before. And I was like, we should probably just thank the guys who are making us look good and sound good.
For sure.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for the Hudson Valley podcasting team. Yep. Thank you guys for listening. And we'll catch you next time.
Peace.
The Knicks Take Podcast.
Yeah, what it do?